Hello and welcome back to Jumping for Joy with Justin. This episode will be about making a cutout of somebody. And this will really only take 5 minutes. It won't be that bad. It's pretty easy to make a cutout. The example I'm going to show you is it's an easier example because he's on a black background, but you'll get the general idea. So I'm going to start with my image. I want to make a cutout of this actor right here. His name is Peter Felt. And I'm going to click on the image. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say open with Adobe Photoshop 2020. If you don't have this option, you can always go into Photoshop and just say file, open, and then go find your file. But that's generally what I like to do. And these four tools up here are your selection tools. And generally, if we start with this rectangular one, I could make a rectangular selection. That's not going to do me much good in Yearbook purpose because that's basically just cropping. But I'm going to do Command deselect basically to just get rid of that. But the tool that we really like is this quick selection tool. And if you don't see it, it's probably because you're on the magic wand tool. So you can right click this. Anything with a little arrow in the bottom corner has a whole array of tools. So the magic wand tool basically selects all the pixels of the same color. The quick selection tool is a little bit more useful in this case because it is a more shape centered. So we're gonna start by just dragging all over his head here, and you'll see like it does a really good job just off the bat, especially because we're on a black background, and there's just like not much that it can jump around to. There are harder selections to make, especially with like athletes in a stadium, but this is the same technique I would use. So, for example, if I was just clicking around his face here and accidentally selected a bit too much, so I can just do Command Z and go back to the previously selected thing. You'll notice that I'm kind of over selecting because I can go back and kind of refine this later. So I'm just going through making sure, and it looks like it didn't select this. So I'm going to make my brush smaller using the left bracket key right by the delete key. Let's see here. And also, so if like this, I think it could do a little bit better here. So what you can do is just hold the Option key on Mac and it'll turn to a little minus. See, it's going plus to minus. So this is removing from the selection. So I can kind of click around here. It doesn't really matter that much because we can go back and refine it later. But that just kind of helps, save a little bit of time later and get it a little bit better. And like this shouldn't be selected. I don't know why it is. And you can tell what is in your selection by these, we call these marching ants, this little line around the selection here. And I think that's pretty good for now. So obviously we don't want all this black space around his hair, so we can go up here and say select and mask. This is the kind of refining tool. And what I like about this a lot is that there's these view options up here. So we can see onion skin, marching ants, just the marching ants. We can see like a red overlay. We can see it on black. We can see it on white. I like to use on black or just on layers because it shows the exact selection. I think for right now, we'll just use on white and then we might change later. These settings do matter. I'm not going to go through and explain all of them, but just try to use something like this. You can mess around with all of these settings and see what makes your selection the best. They can be a little bit hard to understand and they're kind of complicated to explain. So, but anyways, I'm just going to go through here and I'm just going to paint along using this brush up here. Make sure you're on this brush. And you see how it's basically getting rid of all of the black. It's a really good tool. And no, that was a little too much. So I'm just going to undo that and I'll come back to that later. But it actually worked with his hair really well. Go along here a little bit, just clean this up down here. That looks almost perfect. And then this is going to be a little bit tricky because it's already a little bit unclear where it transitions to his actual hair. But I'm going to change the shift edge a little bit to hopefully make this a little bit more accurate. Maybe make my brush size a little bit smaller too. This is going to be a little bit tricky. All right, see, I'm not too upset with that. It looks a little bit funny, and honestly, for this purpose, I'm probably just going to leave it not perfect. If you really want to make it as perfect as possible, there are other things you can do. You can just keep messing around with this. But for the sake of time, I think this is a really good selection. So then we can just say, okay. And look at that, we have a perfect selection. See how it made a layer mask for us right here. And just a reminder that in a layer mask, anything that is white, you see the white person is what's going to be shown, and anything that's black is hidden. So we can hold shift and click on the layer mask to hide the layer mask and just see what we did, what we got rid of in the background. And yeah, I'm actually really happy with that. So then how do we get this onto a page? So we can go up here to File, Export, and don't use this up here. Go to Export As. It's going to open this little box. Give it a minute. And mine's already set to PNG because I was just doing this, but it will probably be in JPEG as default. And these are just all types of images, basically. JPEG is what we're used to. It's like a main, it's a compressed version of a image file, and it's what your iPhones just don't use it anymore. They use their own, but a lot of cameras just spit out JPEGs. But what we want here is a PNG, because you'll see this option that says transparency is going to come up. And basically, you can see that it's all checkerboard back here. And it's not going to show up as a checkerboard when we export this, but it's just going to show up as this object here. It's kind of like a image, but it doesn't have, it's not like a rectangle image. It has actual borders, the ones that we made. So make sure the transparency is checked. We're going to say export, and we'll just export it into my photos. Give it a minute here. Let's go to my photos. Let's see. There's my bird TikTok. You can go watch that. My TikTok is the same as my username, but it's no. Desktop. I wish when I search for something it would just give me the file. I'll just go find it over here. Fine. Here we go. So here's what I exported. If I open this, it's gonna open over here. I'm gonna bring it over here. You'll see, just because I have the dark Mac OS whatever theme, that it's showing a dark gray background, but this is really just him. Like, there's nothing else in this image. So if I want to open my InDesign and grab a little image frame here, let's say we want him here. Actually, no, I want him over here, because then he'll be looking into the page a little bit more. This is all just rough, but we can do that, and then grab our PNG of Peter and drag that in there. It went in there, but it defaults to be some horrible fitting. So I'm going to use my shortcut Command Option Shift C, and that's going to size it to fit in the frame a little bit better. And I'll turn my guides off here so you can see what that did. But here is what we just made. And if, for example, now if I just make a text box, like right here, where usually there would be an image, like part of an image over here, I can type as much as I want to. And no, that didn't like it, but you know what I mean? It's going to go around here. And yeah, so this is how you make a PNG cutout and then put it on a spread. I think that's all you need to know. Of course, you can play with the sizing of this. So you want to don't be on the actual frame, but you want to click this little resize the actual image box in here, and then you can hold shift and drag out if we want to make him bigger, and then we can move him around a little bit. And there's all sorts of things you have to do. We can also go into a corner and make sure those arrows pop up, and we could rotate him and make him all over the page. We could do whatever we want, but yeah, we also wouldn't try to be covering the section page topic, or we'd have that different color. But that's the basics of making a cutout, turning it into a PNG. Thank you.